My parents took me to court for buying a house. Yes, my own parents, and yes, my own house. One minute I was holding the keys I'd spent 6 years saving for, and the next I was staring at legal papers with my name printed like I was a criminal. When I asked why my father didn't even hesitate, he looked me dead in the eye and said, "That house belongs to your sister." I thought that was the part that would break me, but it wasn't. Because what happened after, that was the moment everything snapped and nothing in my family stayed the same again. My name is Eloise, and for most of my adult life, I thought the simplest way to keep peace in my family was to stay quiet, work hard, and never ask for more than what I earned myself. I grew up in a house where my father Malcolm made every decision sound like a decree, and my mother Rosalind softened those decrees with guilt. My younger sister Celeste never felt any of it. She floated through life cushioned by their approval, their attention, and their endless belief that she needed more help than I did. I learned early that fairness didn't live in our house. Expectations did. Still, I tried. I focused on my career, spent long nights in front of my laptop, hair tied back, eyes burning, reminding myself that discipline would give me the freedom my upbringing never did. For 6 years I saved. No vacations, no impulsive shopping. Lunches packed from home. Every bonus went straight into savings. Every promotion meant another step closer to something that belonged to me. A home. My home. The night I told my family I finally had enough for a down payment, Rosalind clapped her hands like she'd been waiting her whole life to hear that news. "Oh, sweetheart, we're so proud of you," she said, lighting candles on the dining table like it was Thanksgiving. Malcolm nodded once approvingly. "Smart investment. If you do it right." I felt a flicker of pride, brief, fragile. Until Celeste leaned back in her chair, stirring her iced tea, and said, "Must be nice having that engineering salary. Some of us are still paying off grad school." Her tone wasn't joking. It never was. I tried to smile. "You're doing well at your firm. You'll get there." She didn't answer. She didn't have to. I could feel the air tighten around her resentment the same way it always did when my accomplishments brought attention she thought belonged to her. Still, I pushed forward. I toured homes on weekends, drove through quiet neighborhoods after work, picturing a life where no one could rewrite my choices. When I finally found a 2-story place tucked on a calm street at the edge of the city, I knew. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't perfect, but it felt like mine. Signing the papers felt surreal. A breath I'd held for years finally releasing. What I didn't know was that this house, the one I earned, was also the spark that would burn every illusion I had left about what my family really was. 3 days after closing on my house, I was sitting on my new living room floor, surrounded by half-opened boxes, when my phone buzzed nonstop. At first, I ignored it. I was tired, sweaty, still holding a screwdriver in one hand. But when Mara's name flashed with the message, "You need to see this right now," something in my stomach tightened. She sent a screenshot. It was Celeste's social media post, public, dramatic, dripping with self-pity. "When your sister uses the money Grandma meant for your first home and buys one for herself instead." Hundreds of likes. Comments full of strangers calling me greedy, selfish, unbelievable. My throat closed. I read it again, slower, as if maybe I'd misunderstood. But no, she was accusing me of stealing money that never existed. Money neither Grandma nor our family had ever assigned to her. Before I could even call Mara, the phone rang again. "Dad." I hesitated, then answered. "Hello." Malcolm's voice was flat, official even. "Eloise, we need to discuss the situation with the house." I stood still. "What situation?" Rosalind's voice floated in from the background. "Sweetheart, you know what this is about." "No," I said. "I don't." Malcolm exhaled sharply like I was wasting his time. "Your mother and I have spoken with an attorney. The funds designated for Celeste's future home were meant to go to her. You knew that." My heart slammed so hard I felt it in my wrists. "What are you talking about?" "There was never any designated money. I bought this house with my own savings. I can show every deposit." Silence. Then Malcolm delivered the line that split my reality in two. "That house belongs to your sister." I sank onto the nearest stair. "Dad, this is insane. There is no agreement. No fund. No, you're being difficult, he snapped. Your sister needs that house more than you do. She's been planning for it, and now you've taken it out from under her. She never told me she wanted this house. It doesn't matter, he said. We'll be filing in court tomorrow. My hand shook so hard I nearly dropped the phone. You're taking me to court, Rosalind chimed in, voice thick with disappointment. We just want to make things right for your sister. She deserves this. You can buy another one. Another one. As if 6 years of sacrifice could be repeated like picking up milk. The call ended without a goodbye. I sat in the dim hallway of my new home, the walls echoing with betrayal I hadn't expected in my worst nightmares. My parents weren't confused. They weren't mistaken. They were choosing a side, and it wasn't mine. That night, Mara came over with takeout and a look that told me she already knew the whole story. You're not crazy, she said quietly. They're trying to take your house. Behind her, Ashton stepped into the doorway. I hadn't realized he'd come too. He folded his arms. Eloise, you need to prepare yourself. They're not bluffing. Your family is getting ready to start a legal war. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at Mara's kitchen counter with a mug of cold tea, staring at nothing while her apartment hummed around me. The shock hadn't worn off. It had settled into something heavier, something that made my chest feel too tight. Mara sat across from me, elbows on the counter. You're staying here, she said firmly. You shouldn't be alone in that house right now. I didn't argue. I couldn't. The next morning, Ashton returned with a folder tucked under his arm. I made some calls, he said, sliding it toward me. You need a specialist, someone who deals with inheritance disputes and property claims. Vivian Hale is the best I know. I blinked at him. Inheritance. There is no inheritance issue. He gave a humorless smile. Your parents are trying to create one. Vivian met us that same afternoon in her office overlooking the city glass walls, soft lighting, everything sharp and composed like her. She listened quietly while I explained everything from Celeste's post to Malcolm's threat. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. Their claim sounds fabricated, she said. But weak cases can still create damage if not handled properly. We'll need statements, payment records, anything showing your house was bought strictly from earned income. I have all of it, I said. Every transfer, every savings log. Good. Vivian tapped her pen. Now, we need witness accounts. Who knew the inheritance was split equally? My breath steadied for the first time in hours. My Uncle Raymond and my Aunt Miriam. Contact them, she said. We need their statements as soon as possible. Raymond answered on the second ring. Eloise, sweetheart. I heard something was going on. When I told him, he didn't even hesitate. Your grandmother would be furious, he said. I'll sign whatever you need. Aunt Miriam's reaction was quieter but heavier. I always feared this could happen, she said. Your father. He asked your grandparents to change the will, to give more to Celeste. They refused. He never accepted that. She paused. If you need me, I'll testify. Piece by piece, the truth formed a shape I could finally see. This wasn't sudden. It wasn't about me. It was the culmination of years of unspoken expectations, years of Celeste being promised things that were never hers. But the worst came 2 nights later. Mara and I were walking up to my house to grab a few more of my things when we saw movement on the porch. Someone was jiggling the door handle. Celeste. She held a key I'd never given her, trying to force it into the lock. What are you doing? I shouted. She jerked back, startled. I thought I could just look around. By breaking in. It's going to be my house anyway, she snapped. That moment changed everything. Vivian called it what it was. Attempted unauthorized entry. Evidence. And suddenly the fear I'd been drowning in shifted into something steadier, something sharp. They wanted a legal war fine. They'd get one. The courthouse smelled like old paper and disinfectant, sharp, sterile, nothing warm about it. As I walked down the hallway beside Vivian, I felt every beat of my heart like it was echoing off the walls. My palms were cold, my breath uneven. I wasn't scared of losing the house anymore. I was scared of facing the people who raised me and realizing they weren't the same people in my memories. Malcolm, Rosalind, and Celeste were already seated at the plaintiff's table when we entered. Malcolm straightened his shoulders the second he saw me, as if preparing for battle. Rosalind looked away. Celeste stared at me with a mix of entitlement and simmering resentment, like I was the one who had betrayed her. Vivian touched my arm gently. "Stay steady. Remember, we aren't here to fight feelings. We're here to present facts." When Judge Evelyn Carter entered the room, fell silent instantly. She had the kind of presence that made you sit up straighter without thinking. Confident, composed, done with nonsense before it even started. "Let's begin," she said. Bernard Langford, my parents' lawyer, rose first. "Your Honor, this case concerns a verbal family agreement regarding inheritance distribution, an agreement that Miss Eloise violated when she purchased a property using funds intended for her sister Celeste. Verbal agreement." My stomach twisted. He continued. "Our position is that the house Miss Eloise acquired was meant for Celeste as per long-standing discussions within the family." Vivian didn't move, didn't flinch. She simply waited for him to sit, then rose with all the calm confidence of someone holding a royal flush. "Your Honor," she began, "the plaintiffs claim a verbal agreement that has no witnesses, no documentation, and no mention in the legally executed will of the deceased grandparents. Meanwhile, the defendant has provided detailed payment records confirming that every dollar used to purchase her home came from 6 years of earned income." Judge Carter nodded. "Proceed." First, Bernard called Malcolm to the stand. My father took a breath and faced the courtroom like a man finally getting the respect he believed he deserved. "My mother always wanted Celeste to have help buying her first home," he said. "It was understood. Eloise knew this." I clenched my jaw. Vivian placed a hand on my arm, grounding me. Bernard's next witness was Rosalind. Her voice trembled just enough to seem sympathetic. "We aren't trying to hurt Eloise," she said softly. "We just want what was promised to Celeste. Promised." Another word with no backbone. Then Celeste was called. She smoothed her skirt and gave a shaky breath, performative, careful. "I've been saving up for years," she said, "but I don't make as much as Eloise. I thought she understood the house was meant for me." Bernard put a comforting hand on her shoulder as she stepped down. Of course he did. Then it was Vivian's turn. She stood spine straight, eyes sharp. "Your Honor, we would like to call our first witness, Raymond Hale." Uncle Raymond entered the room with the steady dignity of a man who had nothing to prove. He took the stand and spoke clearly. The will was split evenly. No conditions, no special promises. I was in the room when it was read. Bernard tried to challenge him, but Raymond didn't budge. Next came Aunt Miriam. She moved slowly, but her voice was firm. "Malcolm asked our parents to change the will to give Celeste more," she said. "They refused. They believed in fairness." The courtroom went still. Rosalind looked down. Malcolm's jaw tightened. Vivian thanked Miriam gently before calling me to the stand. As I sat, the microphone felt too close, too loud, but speaking the truth felt like oxygen. "I saved for 6 years," I said. "I can account for every dollar. No inheritance money was used." Vivian handed the judge a neatly organized packet. "These are the statements documenting 6 years of deposits, payroll, income, and savings transfers." Judge Carter flipped through the pages with a keen eye. "Noted." Then Vivian said, "Your Honor, we have one more matter to address. 2 nights before mediation, Celeste attempted to enter the defendant's property using a key that did not belong to her. Celeste's head snapped up. "I wasn't breaking in, I just wanted to look." Vivian didn't even look at her. "A neighbor recorded the attempt and called the police. We have the report here." She handed it up. "The defendant did not pursue charges, but it demonstrates a belief held by the plaintiffs that they were entitled to the house regardless of legal ownership." Bernard stumbled. That has nothing to do with it has everything to do with entitlement," Vivian said calmly. "And the core of this case." Judge Carter held up a hand. "Enough." The courtroom stilled under her gaze. "I've reviewed the materials," she said. "The will was equal. There is no evidence of any financial arrangement assigning funds specifically to Celeste, and the defendant's purchase was made entirely from her own earnings." She paused, letting the air thicken. As for the attempted entry, that escalation is deeply concerning. Celeste's face blanched. I hereby dismiss the case in its entirety. A sharp bang of the gavel sealed it. With prejudice, Judge Carter added, voice firm. The plaintiffs are barred from refiling these claims. My breath rushed out of me, not like relief, but like something heavy lifting off my chest for the first time in months. Rosalind covered her mouth, stunned. Malcolm's eyes flashed with something dark: anger, disbelief, wounded pride. Celeste burst into tears. When we stepped into the hallway, Malcolm stormed after us. "This isn't over," he barked. "We're still family." I turned to face him fully for the first time. Family doesn't take each other to court over lies. Family doesn't try to steal what someone else worked for. You chose this. Rosalind reached for my hand. I stepped back. "I don't want to fight," she whispered. "You already did," I said. "And you lost." Celeste sniffled. "I just thought it was supposed to be mine." "It never was," I said softly. "But you never wanted the truth. You wanted whatever you were promised." For the first time, she looked uncertain, almost small. Vivian stepped beside me. "We're done here," she said calmly. And we were. As we walked away, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt steady, whole, free. They didn't expect my response, but they felt it. When I got home that evening, the sun was sinking behind the rooftops, washing the street in a soft orange glow. For the first time in months, the sight of my own front door didn't make my stomach twist. I unlocked it, stepped inside, and let the quiet settle over me like a blanket. No tension, no fear, no one trying to rewrite what belonged to me. Mara arrived first, carrying takeout and grinning like I'd just won a championship. "You did it," she said, pulling me into a tight hug. Ashton followed with a bottle of sparkling cider. Not many people walk into a courtroom against their entire family and walk out standing taller. Vivian came last, composed as always, but her smile was warmer than I'd ever seen. "Justice doesn't fix everything," she said softly, "but it does give you room to breathe." Raymond called to say he and Miriam were proud. They reminded me that my grandparents believed in fairness, always had. Tonight, I finally felt connected to that belief, not just by blood, but by choice. I walked through my living room, touched the smooth edge of the newly refinished table, opened my windows to let in the night air. This house felt different now, not just a purchase, not just an address in the city. It felt like mine again, fully, unquestionably mine. Standing in my doorway that night, I realized something simple and steady: family isn't defined by blood or tradition or the people who claim they know what's best for you. It's defined by the ones who stand beside you when everything breaks. I didn't win just a case. I won my life back, my home, my boundaries, my voice. If you've ever had to fight for what's yours or stand up to people who tried to rewrite your story, you're not alone. Tell me where you're listening from. Share your thoughts and subscribe for more stories like this.